Hello, Mr. Ramakrishna here. Basically, we are discussing the most dangerous topic, that is city creation. So, one of the person told that the Bollywood industry basically knows lots of things. This song basically says lots of things. See, basically, this song, see, basically. So this is that song basically that says that basically कल भी सूरज निकलेगा. So that means the Mumbai basically whenever gets the new planets data basically in the form of lights, basically, immediately the rich peoples who basically have vehicles like these plane and helicopters basically, they immediately leaves Mumbai. So that basically are risk basically. That is also we are calculating here basically. And here basically one of the person told that basically what actually the risk is. So no risk data basically. So whenever new data basically comes, but when basically risk data basically comes, that time basically they leave basically. Why? Because poor people basically can't live in Mumbai basically. Poor people basically can live Mumbai basically. No, they basically can't live because they basically say that basically we will die here basically. But we will not leave Mumbai. Why? Because they don't have any money basically to leave Mumbai basically suddenly basically whenever new planets basically comes. Because within 1 week basically every time basically the planet new data basically comes basically. New data basically comes every week basically. So they basically can't live basically every week in Mumbai from Mumbai basically because it's going to cost too much basically. If they are leaving Mumbai basically, then basically what they will eat basically. Even basically the person basically who is having the salary of 1 crore rupees per month basically, they also basically can't afford this basically. Every week basically they can't leave from Mumbai to other city basically, and because they have to leave immediately basically. Within 1 or 2 hours basically they have to leave basically. Why? Because that I will tell you basically. Assume that basically 11:59 basically is the time basically of Friday. So 11:59 is the time of the Friday basically, that is the Friday night basically. Saturday basically whenever the time comes na basically, that time basically the new light data basically is already calculated in the environment basically. Just see basically how dangerous thing basically is coming basically. So data is already there in the environment basically till Friday night basically. So after Friday night basically the data setting has already done because they can't take the risk basically, because any second basically anything basically can happen basically. That's why basically they calculated the 24 hours, and Friday night basically, that is the 11:59 time basically, they basically dumps the data of next day light data, that is the afternoon data basically. Whenever the morning comes, the light basically data, that is the sun data basically. There is no like sun basically, that is just the design basically. There is no like sun basically. So that basically is the data basically. In really basically the light basically is coming from the earth planet only basically. The light basically is coming from the earth planet only. That sun basically which is getting displayed basically, that is just basically one design basically. That is just one design. So one of the person told that is to keep the control of the earth planet lights basically. So one of the person told that the light data basically which is displaying in the earth planet basically, that data basically is displayed night only basically. So the people basically who are have to leave the Mumbai basically, they have to leave Mumbai just within evening time only basically they have to leave, because in evening time only basically the evening, or basically it might be possible that 8 or 9 o'clock basically the night basically 8 or 9 o'clock basically the lights data basically starting attracting to the city basically. That is basically from the power company and the energy company and the nuclear power company basically. So they basically starts attracting data to the Mumbai city basically. So the light data basically attracts to the Mumbai city. That basically data, in that data basically. So one of the person told that who leaves the Mumbai city basically. How they, why they leave basically? Because they gets the information basically. They basically gets the information that basically the new planet data has came basically in the form of light. Basically it has came basically. That data basically they gets the information. So they immediately basically gets out from the Mumbai. That is basically called get out from Mumbai basically. They basically gets out from Mumbai. But when they don't get out from Mumbai basically, that is this basically. No risk data. That is the old existing data which is basically in the form of light and the prakash basically. That is basically we can in IT industry basically it is called as a modification data basically or the deletion data basically or the deletion data basically. So you can just imagine basically the dangerous thing basically, that is new planet data basically. So whenever basically the new planet data basically comes, the rich people basically immediately leave the Mumbai. Even 1 crore people basically who are earning money basically more than 1 crore, they also can't earn, they also basically can't leave the Mumbai basically every week basically. Because I will calculate it, just a minute. If they are leaving basically Mumbai from plane basically, so 5,000 basically is the this rate. So 5,000 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 7 multiplied by not 7 basically 2 3 8, or basically we will say 7 basically only basically. So 70,000 basically is the monthly basically income basically. I'm sorry, monthly expense basically. Monthly expense basically is the plane expense basically, and plane expense is okay basically, but other expenses are also basically there na basically. They have to stay there wherever they are basically going. So minimum basically 4 to 5 lakh, for 3 to 4 lakh basically is the monthly expense just of traveling basically. That basically even 1 crore people although who are earning na basically, they also basically can't afford basically that. Because if they are earning 1 crore rupees, then basically they might be having lots of expense also basically. Their lifestyle also basically might be like that only basically. So they can't afford basically 4 to 5 lakh rupees per month basically. They can't afford basically up to that level. So the people basically who are very rich people basically businessmen basically, they only basically leaves the city basically. That is the get outs from the city basically. So few people say that basically the public basically sometime basically the public tracks that basically, that they basically, because public basically knows everything na basically. Public knows everything basically. That is why basically the businessmen basically every time basically they are moving basically. Why? Because the group basically who are giving the data na basically, they basically tells basically few people basically that basically this businessman basically are leaves every time basically whenever the risk data basically is coming basically. So whenever the risk data is coming, they immediately, so slowly basically this information basically gets spreads to the Mumbai city basically. That is the each and every public basically gets the information basically that this person basically gets out from basically from Mumbai basically. Reason, they basically are getting the risk data basically in the Mumbai land basically. So they basically immediately leaves basically. So slowly what happens basically, that person basically who is doing the business of particular things na basically, that business basically gets down basically. And there basically business advisor basically tracks that basically, because the business is going down basically, so their business advisor basically immediately tracks, and then basically they tells that basically you are basically every time moving the Mumbai na basically, reason risk data basically are coming in the form of light and prakash basically. Due to that basically the public has tracked that basically, and due to that basically the Mumbai basically is telling that basically your business is getting down. Basically. So in